You spent a career learning about disease and immunology. There's not much about variants you don't know about. The two variants we're dealing with at the moment, the UK one, the Kent one, and the South Africa one, which one worries you more, can I ask?
Yeah, the South African by some margin. They both have multiple different mutations in them. So they're not a single mutation, they're multiple different mutations. And the mutations associated with the South African form are really pretty substantial changes in the structure of the protein. So the protein has got a domain which binds to the human cells. It's called the receptor binding domain, and it's where the virus attaches itself. And so if you get an immune response that protects you, one of the ways it protects you is it gets in the way of that binding event. So you rely on antibodies to bind to that domain to stop the virus from binding onto your cells. That's basically the whole basis for vaccines. There are a number of monoclonal antibodies that work that way. And that's why if you get an infection, you make antibodies to that domain that prevent you getting reinfected. So if you mess around with that, you're in trouble. And the first variant, the so-called Kent variant, has a number of mutations that are not in the receptor binding domain. And the one mutation which is really dominant in the receptor binding domain is only on one bit of that domain. So the best way to imagine it is two shoulders and a neck. There are two shoulders and a neck to the receptor binding domain. The 501 tyrosine mutation is on one shoulder. Can kind of live with that because there's lots of other places you can mess around with the receptor binding domain if you make antibodies to it. The South African strain, again, multiple mutations, but it's got 501Y, and it's also got a mutation at 484, which is on the other shoulder, which is a very big mutation. It's a lysine change for glutamic acid, so it changes the electrochemical basis for that interaction. And yeah, there isn't going to be any antibodies that stick to that. So I would worry a lot about the South African strain.